What's going on, everybody? Mike here. If you'd like to join the ever-growing Fly Casual community, please take a moment right now to subscribe to our channel and share with a friend.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Fly Casual. I'm your host, Model Cyberdyne Systems, Model TFAT. I will be guiding you through tonight. You're talking about the Terminator. If you haven't figured that out already, get to the chopper! Fly Casual!
Let's get ready to wrinkle!
You guys do not want to know how many bits of cheese ball just flew out of my mouth and onto the pop filter.
All the bits.
All the cheese ball bits.
That cheese ball has been terminated.
I'm really excited about tonight.
So many bad accents tonight.
I have fulfilled my programming by half emptying these bolivian cheese balls. That's the key to a good Arnold impression. Just being furious mid-sentence.
Just yell at the end.
Just yell up at the...
I'll be back! That's how I remember it going.
That's exactly how it went. Yep.
You're right. Baby! It's that kind of stuff.
We were not physical.
The attraction was not based on the physical.
Oh, lordy, lordy, lordy. This is going to be so much fun tonight.
And I said, the solid colors would be a huge mistake. You need rainbows or unicorns.
It's not a tumor! Actually.
That's the wrong one, man.
Oh, my bad.
It's the wrong Terminator
Technically,
movie.
Get to the Chopper was a Terminator movie.
It was kindergarten Terminator.
Kindergarten Terminator. Right.
Who is my daddy and what does he do? So much fun.
Hey, that's another cop movie we could do. Just saying.
There you go. Yeah, we do another cop movie. We should we do a cop movie series. We got to throw in Kindergarten Cop.
It's not a tumor.
Yeah, the best of all cop movies.
Yeah.
He's a cop who becomes a kindergarten
Critically
teacher.
Acclaimed cop movie.
I'm a kindergarten teacher. I'm on the cover.
Oh, we could do a movie of the Terminator when he's pregnant.
Oh, yeah. Pregnant Terminator.
That's
a good
right.
One. What was that other one called? Identical Terminators?
Yeah.
The one where Danny DeVito was the other Terminator.
That's right. Yeah, twins. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of great. We have Pregnant Terminator, Identical Terminators. There's, man, so many to pick from. Jungle Terminator.
Jungle Terminator.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jungle Terminator. You remember Total Terminator, the one that was on Mars?
Total Terminator.
Total Terminator.
He goes to...
Yeah.
Yeah.
They should have just called it Terminator on Mars. It would have attracted a lot more people.
Running Terminator.
Running Terminator.
That's a classic.
That is a very, that's a good
see
one.
the body Ventura in it.
Yeah. Yeah, you remember Terminator in New York? When they dubbed over the Terminator's voice?
Yeah.
It was weird.
Yeah.
It was weird.
So strange.
We're going deep cut Arnold tonight. Screw you, Elvis.
Yeah.
I don't know why I just channeled Tom
Arnold didn't
Arnold.
die in a toilet. That's for sure. Not yet, anyway.
No, not yet. I have a much better diet. I've been eating lots of fruits and vegetables.
I like the Predator.
Plenty of potassium.
The Predator.
The Predator is pretty good. Yeah. The Predator's not bad at all.
Terminator Racer.
So this could go on forever, but it ought not.
The sixth Terminator.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes. Yeah.
You're just going down his IMDb.
Now I am.
Howie always does that. He just opens
did
it up.
You already said Conan the Terminator? Did you say that?
No,
one?
the Termitarian or something.
Kung Furry Terminator.
Kung Furry?
Kung Furry.
Not Fury.
That sounds
No,
hot.
it's F-U-R-Y. Furry.
Thank you for putting me in my place, Howie.
Wow.
You know F-U-R-Y, Howie.
Fur.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Fly Casual.
Hello.
Yay!
I'm going to put these cheese balls over here because I don't want orange fingers no more. What is it?
The best one. Chad goes deep.
The old Paul
Terminator.
and Storm jingle. If you want to turn your daddy parts orange, eat Cheetos and watch some porn. Right? Isn't that how that goes?
That's right.
Yeah.
Is that a thing?
According to Ron White, it is.
I just made it up. No, it's a thing. It's a real thing. Welcome back, Fly Casual, everybody. I'm Corey. Over there's Mike.
Hello.
Hello.
How are you doing, Corey T. Wilson?
Oh, you stole Howie's thing.
I did. Howie's too busy searching Arnold's IMDb page. And
It's the best.
I can do this all night. I'm doing good, brah.
His filmography isn't as big as I expected.
Well, you had to spend that time as the governor.
Yeah, he was the governor.
It was the
Time
governor of California.
California. You have to put enough syllables in there.
You know, that's the best time that they were a state.
Because the state is called California. Over there, Master Control, sipping his pure leaf tea is Mr. Stephen J. Howie.
Would you expect anything less?
I would expect nothing
Nope.
else or less. Or more, really. I mean, let's be honest.
Yep.
Don't bullshit a bullshitter.
I
Can't
tend not
bullshit
to.
a bullshitter.
Yep.
You can't bullshit a
They
Across
know.
the
bullshitter.
pond and
Because
down a
they
fuse,
know.
Mr. Garrick, not Jay Hardy.
That's my favorite Arnold quote is just random yell noise.
Yeah, like very guttural, tongue swallowy noises, like, half of Total Recall.
Yeah,
he's
like
pulling
the
the
end
thing
when
out of
his
his nose.
eyes are bugging out
Yeah.
and his tongue's sticking out. And he's like, it's my favorite Arnold moment of all.
Yep.
It sounds like a Murloc.
Oh, man.
Shredder.
He is 6'2", you guys. He is
Oh, he's
6'2".
great.
I did. I cranked out. He is.
6'2", that's tall. That's a tall drink of water right
Tall
there.
guy.
Tall Australian drink of water.
He's not Australian.
Not Australian at all,
Yeah.
but all right.
Oh, what's the accent?
Let's not
then?
throw another shrimp on the ball, baby.
And I think he's still technically married
Oi,
to
mate.
Maria Shriver.
I'm here to terminate you.
Get one black,
It'd be
y'all.
a totally different Terminator series.
Right? That's
call
not
that
a
a
gun.
gun?
That's a gun.
Hey, that's a knife right there. Oh,
This would be the greatest movie ever made.
Why haven't they done this?
We
yet?
gotta find Mars Dyson. Dice. I can't even say it. Nigel. What are you doing, Nigel? You have one job and nobody even knows what it is.
Do I have to do that for you?
You have to do your job for you. We're gonna have way more fun than our listeners are tonight.
That's how it always goes.
Time to docket some crap.
Yay! Oh, wanna docket some crap? Gonna crap some docket. Oh, but
Here comes, guys.
oh, gross.
Oh, we're doing the Numa Numa dance. It's happening.
Oh, didn't know we were doing that.
Howie, it looks like you're pumping some iron over there.
I am pumping lots of iron.
Rapidly. How heavy are those fists? Are you getting a proper upper body workout?
Well, I do use my fists a lot. They call me
Oh, wow.
the fist,
The
the old fist
Just ask
around.
his wife, you know what I'm saying?
Fistinator.
Howie the Fister.
What he's known as.
It sounds like we've been drinking, but only Mike has.
That's not true.
And well, you're a given too. Howie's now you're doing the drunk boss thing. Howie's doing the drunk boss hand movement where you just rub your hand left and right across your chest a bunch of times.
Wow.
What's happening over there? Do I need to come over there and bust you, you silly girly man?
Oh, man. This episode's going to be way more fun
Than you expected.
Than I expected. Yes, that's true. That's true.
All right.
What are we funning on this week, guys?
I'll go first.
All right.
Oh, you're going first, Dave.
I finally watched a movie that's been on my radar for a couple years now.
Is it Joker again?
It's not.
Okay.
This one's a watch.
Not. I finally got around to watching The Big Sick.
I have no idea what that is.
Well, let me tell you.
All right, please do.
porn?
Big Sick is a Judd Apatow film,
Oh.
I like Judd Apatow.
and it is a biographical film about
I like biographical films.
about the
making of the Terminator?
No, it's not about that. You shut your mouth and let me get through this.
It's
Yeah.
the
My
big
teeth are full
Terminator.
of cheese balls. It's about the real life story of Kumail Nanjiani and how he met his wife. who
Silicon
I
Valley?
feel really bad about the fact that I can't remember her name
Yes.
right now. But she's a writer, and obviously you've seen Kumail Nanjiani in various things, including Silicon Valley. But it's their actual. Now they wrote it, and of course they punched it up for the film. But it's pretty much their biographical story about how they met, and she got deathly ill and almost died.
Oh.
And basically, the way the film portrays it is they broke up right before she got sick. And she pretty much hated his guts, but then she got sick and was in the hospital, and her friends were like calling him, say, we have exams. You need to go be with her because someone needs to be there with her. So he's like reluctantly there, and she's like unconscious, and they're like, hey, are you her husband? He's like, what? Are you her husband? We need to put her in a medically induced coma, and we need, if you're her husband, to sign this so we can do that so she doesn't die. And he's awkwardly signs it. And then her parents come to town who are very much aware of why they broke up, and they don't think much of him. So there's this awkward thing where he feels compelled to be there, and her parents are there, and they're stressed out because their daughter's deathly sick, and they don't know why. No one can tell them why, but he also, her ex-boyfriend is around that they don't like or want to know at all. And it is actually an incredibly charming film.
How many dance numbers are there?
None dance numbers because he's not Indian. He's Pakistani.
I don't know if I want to watch something.
He's
with that.
Pakistani. Garrick, don't be racist.
That's not. I'm just watching.
Even though they just broke
dance
off from
numbers
India
in every movie I
in the
watch.
last century or whatever, but which is something that I learned in this film. It's so he's playing himself, in the film, and it has to bounce the whole thing between his family, who still is trying to arrange marriages. Every time he's home for dinner, his mom, like another Pakistani girl, pops by or drops by. Like the first time it happens, he's like, "Are you serious? Are you serious right now?" So what's the over-under on the fact that she's going to say the words dropped by in the next 10 seconds? And his brother's like, T-minus 10, 9, 8. She walks in and she's like, oh, this girl. She just dropped by, because she's constantly pitching nice Pakistani Muslim girls to him. And like, they even tell him like, oh, Kumail, you need to go downstairs and pray, because he hasn't prayed that day. So he goes downstairs, rolls the blanket out on the floor, sits down in a chair and looks at his phone, like watches YouTube and looks at memes. And then at the end of 5 minutes, rolls the little prayer blanket up and comes, like, he's just faking it. He's so Americanized. He's not into the arranged marriage. He's not into the religious, anything. And so, but he's got to hide that from his family. But then he starts dating this white girl, which is going to basically be a huge affront to his family. And she's not worried at all about him and her family. And so there's this whole dichotomy where, she finds out that he hasn't even told his family about her, and that's what causes a breakup. And of course, anyway, he more or less realizes how much he loves and cares for her while she's unconscious. So, without giving away too much of the movie, but, it's based on someone who's still alive. So when she comes out of her coma, she has to deal with the fact that she still hates him and he's in love with her. So they have to figure, you know what I mean? But yet his family by that time, it's cool. So his mom is played by Holly Hunter, or her mom is played by Holly Hunter.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, Holly
And
Hunter.
her dad is played by Ray Romano.
Oh, everybody hates him.
I love Ray
everybody
Romano.
loves
I hate the
Ray.
show. I hate
Everybody
it.
loves
Oh, that show's funny. I like it.
Your mom's funny.
It's fine.
But either way, I mean, that's kind of a funny team up. Holly Hunter married to Ray Romano, right?
He was in
Yeah,
Oh
why
Brother,
not?
Where Art Thou?
It works. Yes, she was. It works really, really well, actually. And Holly Hunter straight up plays to her strengths. Ray Romano plays to his strengths.
He was in
Then he gets the little
Batman
chopper.
versus Superman. Did you
No.
know that?
Yes. Superman blew her up.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
Does that stuff.
Yeah. So
Kills people.
sure does. Sure does.
He's Elastigirl.
I recommend this film. It's an easy one. It's not 3 hours long because Garrick didn't recommend it.
He's
And
got dance numbers, apparently.
it's got like a really serious story, but it's full of like really goofy Chicago comic humor because their comics are always bantering back and forth at the club and stuff like that. And it really does a nice job of just never making you feel like it's getting too serious,
but at the same time, it's a very serious. It tackles several serious subjects, but the humor is also never completely lambasting and ridiculous. It's very casual, and I loved it. Actually, I really enjoy this film. So I feel like anybody who's interested in watching something that doesn't have guns going pew pew or lasers going, you might want to.
What's the point then?
Seriously.
Need some lasers.
Neither of those things were in Three Idiots. You idiot. So,
There was a gun.
Was there? There was no gun.
There was a gun.
You just talked about the gun
He gunned
last
him.
week.
Pulled a gun.
That's a week ago. I don't even remember that.
The
pulled
rifle
a
with the
gun.
22.
That's not a gun. That's a bunny popper. Well, that doesn't
Gun.
count as a gun.
Technically.
You get shot in the calf with that, and you're like, great, now I got to go to the urgent clinic. Great.
No,
You can get that out
when you
with
say
a,
calf,
like a
do you mean
clothespin
like
or something.
Yeah.
on your leg or like a
Magnet.
cup of coffee calf?
Either or, it's going to hurt the same. So that's mine, The Big Sick. It is currently streaming on Amazon Prime. I actually I wanted something to watch. I had no plan. I, for whatever reason, opened up Amazon Prime first. Prime Video, and saw it right there. And I was like, oh, I've been meaning to see this since it came out. So I watched it. It was absolutely great.
There you go.
So, and
There it is.
who next?
I'll go. I'll get it out
You'll
of the way.
go.
So, I'm not the video game guy like you guys are.
Which you always tell us when you tell us
Not
about a
even
video
close.
game. that
Every
you're playing.
time, just reminding everyone.
It's about every other week now.
Yeah,
Let me tell
good.
you, you're correct.
But I think I mentioned a couple weeks ago that my son was talking about his buddy who had the SNES,
Yeah, the SNES.
Classic, and
Yep.
I surprised him by pulling the actual real
Right.
McCoy out of the basement, and he and I have been enjoying some Super Mario World together, and it's been a nice experience. It's been fun, man. Because okay, let's just put it this way. So when my son wants to play Xbox, right? It's usually Skylander and stuff like that.
that is like crap that doesn't interest you at all.
Not at all. And I literally fall asleep while I'm trying to play it with him. And I hate it because he loves that and he wants to share something with dad, right?
Yeah.
So, I feel bad when I'm just so bored with it, and he's just like, Dad, hurry up. And he's trying to tell me what to do. And I have no interest. But now that we got the SNES
Now that he's
out,
willing to fish in your pond.
yeah, that's right. And it's just funny that, he is interested in these old games, and, it's so funny because for so long, these video games, I mean, just the graphics and the stories and everything got so advanced. And now that we're at a point where these kids are just like, no, where's the old 60, the 64-bit, 32-bit stuff,
Yeah, give me something challenging.
Yeah. Seriously, it's all pretty much hand-fed to you now with the newer games. But so, yeah, this is fun. And it's just been a father and son thing that we've had for the last couple weeks, and it's been fun. And we're almost to the end, and we're going to fight Bowser here pretty soon. And I'm excited about it, man.
It's real.
Yeah, that's right.
When you're coming home, Dad, I don't know when. Will you get there?
Hey, I pay attention to my
Play
son.
some Super Mario
In fact, I'm
thing.
coaching him tomorrow morning. And what time is it now?
I would believe that would be
it's only
this
1.
morning.
It's almost 1.
This
yeah.
morning.
Yeah, in a few hours, I'm going to be coaching him. So,
On how to pick up chicks.
yeah, right.
But
What goes around comes around. It's fun that these kids are actually enjoying these old ass games that we played back in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah.
It's been an experience.
Howie Doc.
Oh,
So
sorry, Doc.
I have been catching up on season 4 of
Season
The Good
4.
Place.
Woo, good place.
Good place.
Yeah, it somehow passed my brain
Good.
that had come out and gone, and I'm like, or not. I don't think it's done yet.
Gone forever.
But yeah, so I'm like, oh, I got a lot of episodes to catch up on. So that's been a fun ball experience.
A fun ball experience.
Yep, with my dual fisting.
Is that a super happy fun ball experience?
It's a super
Sounds like
heavy
a fun
fun ball.
ball. of
Howie the
fisting.
Fister catching up. Yeah.
So yeah, who here has seen at least part of The Good Place?
No idea what
Yo.
you're talking about.
This
No
guy.
idea.
This guy over here.
Yeah,
kid.
all
Not
the cool
this
people,
guy.
anyways.
Yeah. Just the
So
cool
Mike
people.
doesn't matter.
Hey,
No,
Mike, it's a
I
show
don't.
that I hated for the first 4 or 5 episodes, and then suddenly it clicked, and I loved it.
Land.
Good place, huh? Give me a quick synopsis.
So,
So
it's
Kristen
Ted
Bell is
Danson.
hot and trashy and knows it, and also there's other people in it.
Ted Danson is freaking hilarious.
Oh,
Ted
is this-
Danson
okay.
is really fun.
All right.
He's
I know which one.
manic as all get
I know
out.
which one you're talking about.
Yeah.
I like the dude from Jacksonville. He cracks me up.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Yes.
Guy's hilarious. Can't remember his name. I don't know.
Bortles.
Portals. Throws a Molotov cocktail.
His war cry is yelling Bortles.
That was the season finale where like Bortles was dropped from the team. And he just like crushes him.
No.
Yeah.
But so
That tall chick.
Jason, that's his name.
Jason, yeah.
And Pillboy.
So
Who's in The
Boy.
Mandalorian?
Donkey
so
Doug.
season one,
Boy.
Donkey Doug. Pillboy and Donkey Doug.
season one follows these 4 people as they get ascended. They die and they get ascended into heaven, and
Or
they do.
do
It's-
they?
Good place.
Wait, okay, it's the good place. You're right. It's not heaven. It's the good place.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's quite hilarious, and I don't. If you talk about it too much with people who don't know anything about it, then
The premise is stupid and contrived. The storylines are absolutely the most ridiculous sounding things. The discussion topics and the banter is just boring sounding. But all of that's not actually true if you watch it.
that's true.
If you describe it, it sounds awful.
Yeah,
It's like super philosophical.
But yet it's
like,
just
on
trashy
purpose.
funny. Yeah. Like
Yeah.
and they're 22-minute bites size. You know,
But the thing is, the philosophy that they do actually over time gets pretty in depth. They also get silly with like the bureaucracy of the good and bad place and all
Yeah.
that stuff. But they also touch on some things where you're like, oh, damn, that's a life lesson everybody could learn. You know what I mean?
yeah,
You're like, and they didn't shove it in my face. Like the stuff they're shoving in your face is just pie hole stuffing goofiness.
yeah,
But if you pay attention, you're like, oh, yeah.
yeah. I see.
That's a thing.
And you have to talk in that accent too.
Yeah.
Ah,
I want to hear
Get
more
to the
about
court
Frederick
play.
Ricci.
But Kristen Bell is just freaking amazing.
She is. Everybody on that show
the
plays their part
chemistry
perfect.
between all the characters is wonderful.
But Jason steals the show.
Oh my goodness, my favorite episode though is the Jeremy Bearimy episode.
oh my God.
That so far
Throwing
is
the gummy bears
I've
in the
never
chili.
laughed so hard in my life. That episode.
By the way,
God over the eye.
for those who've not seen the show, Jeremy Bearimy is actually how time works. So
yeah in the good and bad place. Yeah,
the
the afterlife realm.
yeah,
whatever.
the time
What's
is
the dot over the eye? That broke me.
yeah. Jeremy Bearimy.
Jeremy Bearimy.
When you draw out how time works, it looks like the word
Jeremy Bearimy. Yep.
With a dot over the eye.
With
Which
the dot over
sounds absolutely stupid, but
Yeah, you'd have to be there.
in the context of the show, it's freaking hilarious. So watch it if you haven't watched it, and if you have, come join the party on Discord.
Yeah. Good place. Good show. Also, I forget her name, but that tall chick is really attractive. I can't remember her
Oh
name.
yeah.
Janet?
Tahani.
No, not Janet.
Tahani.
Tahani, yeah.
Mhm.
Janet is
She's
actually
also-
pretty attractive too. If you look at her pictures outside of,
Oh no, yeah,
is-
I know that suit thing they have her wear that makes
Yeah.
her look very much like a Geico commercial. Yeah,
Mhm.
doesn't
So
do
is
much.
Cheaty. Cheaty's pretty hot.
Cheaty is ripped, dude.
Oh, yeah.
that guy
See
is
when he
ripped.
took his shirt
Ripped.
off? Woof. Whoa.
I was like, "That gum, cheese!"
wow.
And
Yeah.
so was Kristen Bell in the moment. Actually, everything I'm
they didn't
saying,
have her take her shirt off.
everything that I'm said,
What?
everything I've said is something that's said many times by Kristen Bell's character in the show.
Yeah.
Like she's always like talking about how she would totally go with a girl if it was for Tahani. Like she like would go les for her, or like say like you're just like a tall, beautiful giantess and stuff. Like she or just diarrhea of the mouth. Every
Like a
thought
graceful
comes
giraffe.
out.
Now, the interesting thing is they actually, for this quirky, funny, stupid show, all the characters have some significant character development.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Which
part
is
of the
enjoyable.
the whole show itself. Is that,
Yep. But yeah, one of the themes.
Yeah,
That's the theme.
big recommender on the Good Place. Garrick,
Hey, what up?
what's your docket like?
what I'm docketing is. So,
Don't say Picard.
have you heard of this this DC streaming service that nobody's talking about?
No.
I've never heard of that.
literally heard that it might exist once.
The first time
So
I've heard about it is now.
So they just came out with
They do
a new,
exist.
animated series based around one of my favorite comic characters of all time from the DC universe, Harley Quinn.
Yeah.
The Harlequin?
They came out with a Harley Quinn show.
Mr. J.
And yeah, well, the accent isn't the same this time around because they got totally different actors for everything.
What? Why do they keep
so
doing
they-
that when they have perfectly awesome people that are still around to do it?
So yeah, well,
Money.
the thing is, this show is rated MA for a reason, and
Oh my
yeah,
god!
so there's a lot of swearing.
They are really
Yeah.
addicted to horse crap, aren't they?
Yeah. Well, I think I like it the show because it's
No,
very tongue
you
in
want
cheek.
to like it.
Yeah.
No. I keep watching it. The
Because
voice
you were
cast,
trying to convince yourself to like
the
it.
voice cast is amazing though because they have a wide cast of DC characters first of all. So of course they have Harley Quinn, they have Poison Ivy, the Joker, obviously. Then they bring in Dr. Psycho,
Oh,
Clayface, and King Shark, and that's like her crew.
Clayface creeps me out, man.
Yeah. Well, Clayface is actually voiced by Alan Tudyk, which
Well,
makes
there
it
you go.
because he's like this over the top, dramatic English accent, and it's
For
insane.
Clayface?
The whole show's insane. Yes.
That's crazy.
Like,
I always thought of Clayface as like just like a gangster, like a high.
No, they don't care about what you think the character should be like.
They give
like
no.
Bane, like the voice of Bane voices it like it in the Dark Knight Rises. Was it the Dark Knight Rises or the Dark Knight? Yeah,
yeah.
the movie, the Christian Bale movie. But he does like a really weird takes. He's like, "Hi, I'm Bane. I'm gonna rob this bank."
So he's doing the thing where he's going up
It's-
and down a lot.
yeah, it's
for
really
no reason
embellished.
whatsoever.
and hilarious. And Lex Luthor is voiced by Giancarlo Esposito, and he's
Wait a minute.
yeah,
Giancarlo?
yeah. Mm-hmm.
And remember, as we were told, it's Esposito. Which
Esposito.
I refuse to ever say
They
again.
have like an insane cast,
That is
and
nuts.
it's just madcap, nonstop swearing, violence, and it's. I don't know. I think I like it. Maybe I keep watching it.
I just don't want to include DC to keep tumbling down this rabbit hole of bro-ness that just. Ugh.
It's not bro because it's different than that. It's very tongue in cheek.
When I hear Garrick say he thinks he likes a cartoon, I'm certain that it's garbage.
well, King Shark is voiced by Ron Funches, and he's
oh,
like
hell no.
King Shark is like you think he's a giant shark with a man body.
Yeah, he's always got,
Yeah, but he's like a hacker, I guess. Like he's super intelligent. He's like a hacker, and he hates how everyone assumes he's just like a big dumb shark.
And it's Ron Funches.
Ron
That is
Funches.
not anything that computes in my head at all, but now I'm interested in at least observing it once.
Yeah. You should try an episode or two to see what you think, because I really want someone else's opinion on it. Because Jim Rash is the Riddler.
That's not actually that's the least crazy thing I've heard you say.
Yeah, he looks like the Riddler.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
What's it called again?
It's called Harley Quinn. That's it.
That's it?
Yep.
Man,
Harley Quinn.
do you guys remember when Harley Quinn was cool? And
Yeah.
then they started
She's still
making
cool. Shut up.
they
She's
started
still
making
cool.
movies and cartoons at the same time, and they can't even make a Batman movie or a Flash movie, but suddenly Harley Quinn's got multiple properties. It just doesn't feel like it's
Right.
cool anymore.
I remember.
Doesn't feel,
Wayne Knight is Oswald Cobblepot.
Well, that's
That gives
news.
you any idea.
That's news.
No,
Yeah,
Wayne Knight
yeah, he
Yeah.
looks a little bit like the Penguin.
from the Jurassic Park.
Yeah, dude. Newman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Newman.
See, nobody cares. That's what he says. in
Nobody
Jurassic
cares.
Park.
Nobody really cares.
It's not news, but this is.
Oh, yeah.
Tired of talking about the cartoons and talk about the news.
Well, Like we haven't had enough Star Wars news lately, but it
More
keeps
Star
rolling in,
Wars.
baby.
They've delayed Obi-Wan to 2027.
Oh.
I'll be dead by then.
Me too, if my plans go accordingly.
Well, I know this has been a couple weeks ago, but the
I'm on the Elvis.
Colin Trevorrow script has leaked to the internet.
Trevorrow.
The whole
huh?
script?
I believe it's the whole thing, from what I've understood. But I have not double-checked that.
When did we jump from Trevorrow to Trevorrow?
I always said Trevorrow.
No, you haven't.
Yes,
No.
I have.
No, you have not.
really haven't.
Yes,
we
I have.
know
No.
there are three people.
No.
Garrick, chime in.
Yeah, I
don't
would have
believe
laughed
you.
at it a long time ago.
I would have too. I don't know what's going
I
on,
really
but at
think-
some
Why
point,
not? Let's do it.
That's pretty much just started today. So,
Trevorrow.
yeah, I actually heard it in last week's episode.
oh, did you?
Yeah, and I was just like, wait, that's new.
Nah, whatever. So anyway, the his version of the movie, not only at minimum a description of the movie has come out, but now apparently concept art has also leaked.
Yes,
Have you guys seen some of the concept art?
I've seen the concept art.
What?
yeah.
Concept art?
Oh yeah, there's some cool
From
concept
the-
art out
from
there,
the
man.
Ep9 that never was.
The Ep9 that never was. Titled Duel of Fates, by the way.
Yep.
Hey,
That's the Ep9
Darth Maul.
that could have been, I suppose. So I don't know. I haven't read the description yet. It sounds like you have, maybe, Corey. Anybody else?
No, I've only read tiny
Does it
tidbits,
involve
and I've
Darth
seen
Maul?
the concept art.
Does not involve Darth Maul.
lame. You can't call it that unless it has Darth Maul.
It did involve 3PO coddling the lifeless corpse of R2D2.
It did. Yeah, there's some interesting. The concept art
But
looked
Good
pretty
old
interesting.
C-Trevs himself on the Twitter said that R2 was not actually killed or destroyed.
Yeah, I did. I
He-
figured.
It said he just took a shot. He goes, happens to the best of us, I think were his words.
Well, R2 got shot in every movie.
Just about,
Right?
yeah.
Pretty interesting that this gets leaked now, but I don't know. I suppose it was bound to happen at some point.
Yeah, who cares? Why not?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, sure. Right. Yeah. But
Good job, Trevorrow.
of course, the people that are super critical of Lucasfilm
That's like a
right
pizza
now
chain.
are glomming onto this and presenting it as, oh man, this looks so much
This would have
cooler.
been better.
This has been way better than Rise of Skywalker,
Shut up,
There's no
man.
way you could
Lords.
possibly know that.
Exactly. I'm
You
just like,
freaking like farmers.
I mean,
Release the Trevorrow cut. Release Trevorrow cut, guys. Hashtag release Trevorrow.
I mean, okay, so I'm not going to defend all the
Release
stuff
it.
that happened there because I feel like Lucasfilm is a mess in
Yeah.
that regard because they've had their problems with
Yeah.
directors.
It's messy.
But trying to make this point that
This would have been the good one. All right.
I mean that's
Take a seat, Charlie.
I mean come on.
Come on.
It's stupid.
Come on.
It's a stupid thing anymore
Come on.
for the unwashed masses to look at a leak storyline and go, "See, that would have been a good one. That would have been better than crap we got.
The funny thing is
JJ cut would have been better. Everything's better. Everything." It's like, no, you know what? It's just not as good as you wanted it to be. It doesn't mean that anything else would have been
Yeah.
better.
Right.
Anything else that was already conceived of.
Right. I mean there
You ain't gonna convince me that the George Lucas trilogy treatment would have been better
Yeah. Sure.
because I like The Rise of Skywalker better than all of the prequel films.
Yeah. Well,
That's
nah.
maybe three.
That's
maybe
not
a
a
couple,
wild claim.
Maybe one or two, but yeah. Mm-hmm. Not Revenge
Three
of the
is
Sith. I think Revenge of the Sith I'd still probably put it.
Do it. Oh, it's a ray shield, Anakin. We're trapped in a laser wine glass.
Well, you're just naming all the bad parts.
Come on.
Oh, you want me to say all the bad parts? All right, hold up. I got it memorized. It's going to be 2 hours and 23 minutes.
What about Padme? What about Padme?
It's my Arnold Padme Vader impression all rolled in.
Oh, that'd be great. Somebody needs to do that. Go back and put Arnold's voice over top of Vader.
Don't you tempt me.
The galaxy is following Sam!
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
It is too late for me and my son. Sea Star. So,
Nailed it.
You have a sister.
you have a sister. Obi-Wan was wise to hide it from me.
His breath match just goes, oh,
With his voice while he's talking.
Tell the simple part until you find those plans.
get to your fighters.
If this is a counselor ship, where's its ambassador? Bring me those plans. I want them alive.
Actually, he does yell that.
Yeah, he does. That sounds just like that.
So anyway, yeah, kind
It
of.
would have been
Do
a
not
very,
joke on your aspirations.
it'd have been a very different movie
Ooh,
looking
Rogue
through
One.
these pictures.
Yeah, it would have. Seriously, the concept art's kind of fun to look through. So I'm kind of glad they came out.
The concept art always looks edgier than the real thing, though.
Of course, it did. I remember Force Awakens.
they
Seeing
had-
Force Awakens art. I was like, "Whoa! Look at this movie! Whoa!"
It looks like it was
They,
drawn in the
uh,
70s, but it was.
In one of the pictures, they have Luke actually blocking a lightsaber
Yeah,
with
holding
his
it with
hand.
his hand. Yeah,
What?
Kylo's. Yep.
and
That's
Rey
badass
had a
right there.
double-bladed blue lightsaber.
Mhm.
Yep.
That she built for herself. So, yeah, I mean, it's always fun to speculate some of that stuff, I guess. So,
And
you know, it'd be
Hux
fun.
commits, what do they call it?
Seppuku.
Seppuku.
Harikari.
Yeah, that.
Remember those old comics where they did alternate
Carey.
like realities or whatever? Like Leia
Yeah,
became the chosen
Infinity,
one
Star
instead
Wars
of Luke.
Infinity comics, yeah.
Be cool if maybe somebody someday did the Colin Trevorrow version.
You're just trolling me now. I will not be trolled into a button.
Did you know
I'll throw a
in-
cheese ball at you.
In his
Yeah.
version, there would have been a guillotine that's
I know, I
instead
saw
of a
that.
blade, it's a
Where-
lightsaber.
You mean where Phasma was
What?
actually cool looking? Yeah, there's a guillotine scene with
Yep.
Phasma.
Well, not
They're-
Phasma,
What?
not
Yeah.
Phasma
With a
getting
lightsaber?
guillotined.
No,
No.
Phasma's standing next to guillotine going, we're going to kill you slow.
It's a really dull
Wait, what do you mean by slow? I'm going to count it down from like 100, man.
This must have been before. This must have been
That's
before.
like the whole scene. 99, 98.
97, 96,
Mississippi.
95. This is so slow, it's intensely, it's killing you. You don't know. I might drop it early. You don't know. 94 anyway.
I just loved that. I loved that Phasma was in the artwork because obviously this is before he got the notes that RJ killed her. So
Yeah,
never
there
mind.
wasn't even notes. He got a
Never
text.
mind.
Killed like
No Luke, no Phasma. Also, Hux is a dipshit now.
No
It's
snow.
like
No Snoke.
basically you can't do the movie you just wrote. Never
Yeah.
mind.
You remember where we left off with the first one? No. No, like it's like 2 hours later and everybody's dead. Sorry, man. Sorry.
Oh.
Not 2 hours movie time. It was way longer. 2 hours actual real life time in the it passing in the movie.
All right, so we actually have some non-Star Wars news this week.
Thank the
What?
Lord.
Yeah. It's Marvel
crap.
news.
Oh,
You
okay.
guys
That's
ready
close
for
enough.
some Marvel news?
That's like Star Wars cousin.
Star Wars cousin. The better cousin, the
Yeah.
more
She's hotter.
appreciated
She's hotter
cousin.
and a little more intellectual in a weird way. Like you don't think she's intellectual, but
People
you talk
like
to her
her
and
a
you're like,
lot
yeah,
more.
like wow, like she's really got a certain je ne sais quoi.
a little bit richer.
Yep.
You know, lives in the nicer house down the street.
Wears really tight spandex.
Really tight. Shows her ass.
Mhm.
Like just right. Just right. Mm-hmm. Captain Marvel 2.
Star
has
Wars
been
is a really
announced.
schlubby piece of crap. is what
Slubby
we're
wears
saying.
sweatpants everywhere.
Yeah. He has I don't know if he ever shaves. He's got one nostril that's always full of boogers
Yeah.
and he doesn't blow his nose.
Yeah.
And it's like green and swimmy, and you're like,
Yeah.
how does that not drip out of
So-
there? It's like
So
an
Star
upside
Wars
down
is George
green
Lucas?
blizzard.
Is that what you're saying?
Star Wars is George Lucas. Well, Lucas doesn't wear sweatpants, so at least he wears jeans.
Yeah.
I guess, yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
No.
thing. Very.
I mean,
good thinking.
95, but he still wears his jeans.
Yeah.
They have a nice crease down there.
This dude, no, Star Wars is the kid who still wears his old burgundy polo over a white long sleeve tee, but it's not white anymore. So even though polo's clean, that white long sleeve tee, like
Kinda
sleeves are like
yellow.
yellowed and
Yeah.
kind of gross
Gross,
looking.
yeah. Mhm.
Yeah.
Bleach.
Yeah. The less popular kid down the street. That's
Yeah.
right. Mhm.
But his cousin, whoo.
Okay, so Captain Marvel 2 has been announced formally.
Yay!
Yay!
I guess.
I don't think there's. I don't know. I don't feel like there's much enthusiasm
Do you
for
have
Marvel.
any idea
in
how
general.
much I can't wait to watch her deliver lines flatly? Hey, I'm here now.
Well, this has kind of been the
for yourself, little guy.
this has been kind of the funny thing because there's like a debate online now, I guess, about okay, so I mean, we're in the new era of Marvel, right? So at some point they're gonna have the big crossover event, which everybody assumes is gonna be, new Avengers, whatnot. And so who's gonna head up the new Avengers, right? And so
who?
there's this debate.
Old man Cap sitting in a
I
chair.
thought it was going to be Falcon America, man.
It should be Falcon America Man,
Should be
but
Falcon America
it's
Man.
not going to be Falcon
and
America
his pal
Man.
Bucky.
And his pal Bucky. Basically,
He's
the
always-
debate is raging
Always
right
the
now. I mean,
sidekick, never the hero.
the setup last year, I mean, Disney was talking hardcore about it being Captain Marvel. They were really pushing the whole Captain Marvel angle.
But no one cares.
Right. No one cares.
Oh, I'm sorry. There
No.
are people that pretend to care.
But then, the other side of it is Spider-Man. Because, I mean, in the MCU, right, the heir apparent seems to be Peter Parker.
I don't
Right?
like it. I don't want Peter.
Honestly,
Peter Parker.
I'm
Spider-Man is a street level character.
Yes, I
Can't make him
kind
head
of agree.
Avengers.
He's
I don't.
awesome when he bats up, when he plays up a league, but his home is
I mean,
down.
I know we're barely into this new era of
Yeah.
Marvel, right? So who knows how things are going to fall into place. But if any of this comes true, I mean, I'm not super hip on Captain Marvel because I don't feel like she's had one movie, right? And she was barely in Endgame. I don't feel like she's earned the right to kind of, I
I
feel
don't
like
think it's about what she earned. I think it's about the fact that she's just not.
Yeah.
The movie was
she's
enjoyable.
a cosmic character, not a Avengers.
Yeah, that's the thing. She's cosmic, so she's uninteresting. It's like in a way where Superman's hard to write.
well, I thought
because
the
he's-
acting was flat too.
that's where I'm getting to. Like she's cosmic, so it's hard to make the stakes high. And
You have to make
we just don't
in
have
a-
enough
number high.
exposure to her.
But
man.
also, I mean, think about this. Think about if everybody who played Superman was boring as hell. You know what I mean? Like that's. I'm sorry. It's the Rose Tico argument all over again. It's kind of no, it's not because Kelly Marie Tran did the best she could with what she had. I don't think why can't I remember Brie Larson?
Brie Larson, yeah.
Brie Larson. I've seen her in stuff where I've enjoyed her.
I was gonna say,
But she was the weakest part of
Like Scott
the
Pilgrim
movie
versus the World.
Captain Marvel. She was the weakest link. Everybody in the movie was more interesting than her.
Tend to agree. Yeah.
And it's not just the character. It was the character, the way the character is written, the
Right.
character's ability
I mean,
level,
yeah.
the direction, and the acting.
Yeah. See, and that's the thing. I mean, I can't hardly blame the actor because I always feel like in these situations, we've talked about 100 million times with Hayden Christensen. It's not that he doesn't have the chops, and it's definitely not that Brie Larson doesn't have the chops because she either has an Academy Award or
But at the same time, who was the worst line deliverer in Endgame? Of all of the heroes, who delivered the worst line, like the lines in the worst way? She had like 3 or 4 lines, and they
Yeah.
were all
forgettable. I
no,
mean, I
they
don't-
were like they stood out as being bad, in
Yeah.
my opinion.
Yeah.
There was hey, what's up? Like she had all these brief lines, like her like looking
that's
her
right.
little
Her
side of the eye down at Rocket and stuff like that. Like
Yeah.
everything she says, I'm just kind of like, go.
And where she's staring down Thor and all that stuff.
Yeah, like it's
right.
just it's just I'm like, okay, wait a minute. They had the same director that she did.
right.
At some point, I got to wonder if it's just not the right type of character for Brie Larson.
Yeah.
If it's just bad matchup.
Yeah. I don't know. I just feel like the writing could be better. So I guess
That
we'll
could
see.
be. Could
Now,
be.
that said, it's going to be a totally different writer and different director on this film. So I don't know what that says. I don't know if that's a plus or a minus, given that you have your original writer. And
There's just certain people I wouldn't cast in a role like that. You know, what's her name? The Arquette from the one that was in the Medium show. The blonde Arquette, the one that had
Trisha?
her. Is that the one who? Yeah,
Oh.
yeah. The other one's Rosanna, right? Yeah, Patricia Arquette. Like at some point, she was, when she was younger. I feel like she would have been the same as Brie Larson, like being cast in this role. It's like, okay, yeah, she's a really good actress. Absolutely wrong person for this type of role.
yeah.
And I kind of to me, that's actually maybe no one else would ever agree with that in a million years. But in my mind, it's like, yeah, her in her prime, really good actress,
Yeah.
pretty blonde,
Right.
does not exude what you're looking for from an ultra powerful character. It would be flat.
Yeah.
And that's anyway.
Well, the ultra powerful characters are always hard to write anyway. I mean, we talk about Superman all the time, right?
Yeah, but we've
I mean,
had some incredibly competent people play Superman in different ways.
Right, but the writing around it, I mean, it's either stale like Superman Returns or it's Lex Luthor again, great.
Superman
With
Returns wasn't
Kryptonite.
stale, it was boring.
Right,
I love
because
that
Kryptonite
movie.
this
I do
time.
But
too.
it's boring.
Trust me, I do too. But I mean, it's like, oh my gosh, I mean, it's Lex Luthor
Or
again.
see,
Can't
I
we
would
do
say
something
the
else?
writing in like Man of Steel was not boring, but stale. It felt cliche.
Yeah, Man of Steel. I don't know. I
can't
blocked
go-
that out of
I
my
can't go
mind
there anymore.
I really can't. But I don't know. I guess overall it's going to be interesting to see what Marvel tries to pull off in this new phase of things and who is really going to stand out, you know, because I mean, yeah, we've had a Spider-Man movie and made $1 billion and it's the most successful ever. But I have to wonder if the $1 billion mark really even means anything anymore, because I mean, Spider-Man made it, but who's really talking about that Spider-Man movie?
Yeah, it was.
You know, Rise
that
of
movie-
Skywalker made $1 billion. It's a good movie. We enjoyed it, but nobody's really talking about it now. Same with
Well-
Last Jedi. And I mean, I'm serious. I mean,
People are going to talk about Last Jedi till the world ends.
well, not in a great way. That's,
Well, some of
but do you see what I'm saying though?
Well, no,
I mean,
it'll both be not in a great way. There'll be people who continually hate it, and the people who continually hate the people who hate it.
the thing about
It'll always be not
the
in a
thing
great
about
way.
$1 billion movies anymore is that the majority, I mean, if you look at the breakdowns from domestic to the foreign box office, it's all foreign based now, man. I mean, it's Rise of Skywalker. I mean, is $400 million movie, which is pretty, you know, it's a good movie, you know, for a domestic box office, but the overseas is what carried it over the $1 billion mark.
Yep.
You know, and I think that's what you see a lot of times anymore. So, I mean, I think that was true for Force Awakens even. I mean,
Still, though, I want to go back to who would actually lead the Avengers. I feel like that's a lot more interesting than going down these box office.
Okay, yeah, sure, right.
Because we've done it so much.
Yeah, right.
they should do a round table type thing where they're all equal. It's like have, you know.
Yeah,
Thanks a
your
lot.
socialism version sounds
No,
great.
wait a minute.
Garrick.
The Falcon and Winter Soldier
Democracy.
thing.
Or
Is that a
oligarchy.
Disney Plus thing, or is it going to be a movie?
Yeah, I don't even know. I'm so out of the loop.
Yeah.
I expect you to tell me these things now.
Yeah, tell me, Mike.
Honestly, I forget, man. I forget if it was going
And
to be a show or
therein
not.
lies the rub.
Right.
It's like some of this
Because
news
I
is
feel
so
like-
mixed and forgettable
I feel
and
like-
confusing. And like WandaVision might be interesting, but I don't think it's going to be good. Maybe it will be.
Yeah.
But I look at it's going to be more of a novelty, at least from the things that I see in here. I could be completely struck sideways by it.
Yeah.
You have two competent actors,
Right.
extremely competent, I think.
Yeah. A lot of question marks coming down the line with Disney and Marvel and Star Wars and all that good stuff. So it'll
Yeah.
be interesting to see.
DC.
I
Yeah,
think
DC.
the head of the
Image.
Avengers should be an AI that Tony
Dark Horse.
imprinted of himself into.
Dude, you say DC, but actually the funny thing is I feel like DC's on the upswing right now, man. They're the ones
Wow.
I'm
Yeah,
Just-
What movie do they have
hold on,
coming
just
out?
wait till the Harley Quinn movie flops.
Yeah, it's gonna.
That movie actually manages to look worse than Suicide Squad. The trailers for that movie are the most uninteresting pile
Yeah.
of dog vomit I have
Watch it be
ever
really good. That'd be
seen.
hilarious.
That would be hilarious because the trailers are awful. It is so mind-numbingly awful.
They're, you know, speaking on a broader scale, I mean, Hollywood is like on a huge decline. Apparently they're, I mean, in terms of year over year, I mean, they're way down this year.
They're no
And-
Bollywood, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Well,
Seriously.
I mean, just
Make
with
more stuff, guys.
with the infusion of
More
streaming
dance
and a
numbers.
lot
Come
and
on.
more and more movies, like more and more cutting edge movies going to just Netflix or Prime or whatever. I mean, the box office is just going to keep declining, in my opinion. I mean,
And Netflix
maybe
is making the quality stuff because they're
Yeah.
winning all the
right,
Oscars.
all
They're
the
getting nominated.
awards, right? And actually, I really feel like the foreign market is making and I don't know. I'm just going to say it. The foreign market, I feel like, is being concentrated on more because it brings in more money, and they're going to be catering to those foreign audiences more than they are to the domestic
They don't
audiences.
have all of our streaming services. I mean, the UK just got
I
Disney
just feel
Plus,
like
right?
domestically,
Not yet.
we're going to keep turning to the interesting stuff on Netflix and Prime and Hulu and and all the other ones that are starting to put out original. I mean,
Has anybody
Apple
watched The
now?
Irishman yet?
I have not.
It's on my list. My wife wants to
Watch the
Yeah,
what?
Irishman.
They look boring.
So
Well,
anyway,
yeah, I don't like Scorsese films, but I'm still going to
also
give it a shot because it's
like
on
4
Netflix.
hours long, isn't it?
yeah,
Well, it's a
pretty long.
Scorsese film, so it's
How
3
many dance
films
numbers?
in one.
I hope there's at least
Yeah.
4 dance numbers.
All right. So anyway, be interesting to see, and that's all I had for news.
Oh my gosh, that's all you have for news. That means it's time for the Porkins Bite of the Week.
Pekins! Ooh, yeah.
I don't know if y'all know this, but you remember that theme from the Terminator 2 where Linda Hamilton is standing at the fence and she's looking at other Linda Hamilton holding the baby John,
Oh yeah,
and they playing around and
cute.
she's yelling like,
But they
"Oh,
died.
GTFO, mothers!
she was very domesticated.
Gotta
in
get
that
on
scene.
out of there. Them bombs is coming." You remember
That's
that
right,
part?
yeah.
Judgment Day,
And then the
right?
bombs
Go!
come down and everybody melts and she turns into like flaming goo.
Go, Linda Hamilton, Lee.
Yeah, that wasn't Linda Hamilton.
What?
Yeah, no, Linda Hamilton standing at the fence, but the mama playing around with the baby, that was Leslie Hamilton, Linda Hamilton's twin sister.
What? That's
No.
crazy. She's like Mary Kate and Ashley Olsen.
You got it, dude.
And
Actually,
the
I
other
would like to
Olsen,
point out.
who's
I would like to
Scarlet
point out.
Got it, dude.
I'd like to point out the thespian skill, here
Oh,
on
my.
Fly Casual.
Oh my.
When you will know when the guys know the Porkins Bite of the Week before. You get a much peppier response. Now I'm gonna tell you.
Was that a giveaway? Was that a giveaway?
90% of the time, 90 to 95% of the time. No, and that's not an exaggeration. They have no idea what the Porkins Bite of the Week is going to be because Porkins Kid doesn't tell us in advance. But sometimes, like, he's on the phone with his mom and he tells her and everybody overhears, and then they get super excited
What?
after the fact. What? You be the judge of what just happened tonight.
What?
In the meantime, it's time to get our stuff on with the thing and the stuff and the things that we do.
I like doing stuff and things on the stuff that I think I do.
It's time to get my groove thing on.
We're going to talk about this cybernetic organism.
I'm a T-800. I come back through time.
Living flesh.
Come with me if you want to live.
Synthetic
Nailed
pork
it.
body thing.
Is that a kind
Parents already dead.
He says it all the time in the movie Sarah Connor. I'm here to kill you now.
Are you Sarah Connor?
I came from the future.
I looked you up on the phone book.
You're going to have a baby, but you're not now.
There was 4 of them, but I killed them all before I got to you.
Yeah.
I killed your roommate and her lover.
Turn it off.
My bad. My bad, everyone. But no, seriously, you're going to die now. Hold still.
No.
My name is T100.
You're
I
making this so much more
my gun
difficult.
and I can't see you.
You killed my father. Prepare to die.
Stop moving.
Stop running away. This is going to drag on for like 2 hours.
Then
getting
my
dark
wife-
outside.
I mean it.
With no dance
Oh
numbers.
my. My.
Zoopy, do.
All right. So are we doing a movie tonight or are we doing the franchise, baby?
Franchise.
Really?
Franchise.
How can you do just one Terminator movie?
Yeah.
That's a good
Can't
question.
they're like Pringles, dude. You can't
Yeah.
eat one.
Can't
We're
eat
not even just doing
one.
movie
Eat 'em.
franchise because we got Terminator the Sarah Connor Chronicles up in here. The TV franchise.
I forgot to watch that.
It's
know
the
you did.
best Terminator TV series of all time.
Yeah. No, that's true.
What?
That's hands down.
Yeah, that's accurate.
That is hands
Who
down.
watched that series?
It's also
Me.
the worst.
It is
I
also
had the
worse.
hots
I
for
did.
Cersei Lannister before she
Hell
was
yeah.
Cersei Lannister.
And I had the hots for what's her name?
for Summer Glau.
For Khaleesi.
Summer Glau.
Yeah, no, Summer Glau was a Terminator in that.
I don't know who Summer
It's a
Glau
great
is.
time
She's
to do the
a
Terminator franchise because it's over. Right?
Willow from
They're not making any more.
Firefly person. Okay.
Yeah, she was the killer girl from Firefly.
Oh.
She plays a Terminator.
River.
It was a real
River.
jump.
Right.
Oh, did I say Willow? What am I in Buffy land? I got
Not
Whedon
Willow.
right. Screw it. She played
enough.
Black Widow. Good enough.
All right. So the
River
Terminator
River Tam.
series kicks off in 1984, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Dun, dun,
Or
dun,
does
dun,
it?
dun.
Which, by the way,
1996.
1984.
wasn't it?
84.
We always bring this up. Huge year for movies. If you've never looked it up before, go to Box Office Mojo.
Why'd you
and
go?
look at
Don't go
1984.
to Box Office Mojo anymore.
Yes.
Boycott that site.
Why?
What?
It's terrible now that they
Well,
got
yeah,
bought out
Their
by what?
interface is really obnoxious.
Well,
since
yeah,
IMDb
it's
merged.
different, and they want you to, if you want to look at past years, now you have to get a subscription, a premium
to
service.
IMDb Plus.
gotta
No,
get a
no.
premium
Box Office Mojo. Be careful.
No, but it's IMDb.
Oh,
It's
bought them out?
yeah.
Gotcha.
You have to get an IMDb Plus subscription to
Oh,
access all the
God.
other stuff. It's garbage.
Yeah,
They
it is.
ruined the site.
Gotta pay
Anyway,
for
But there's still
the
some good
point
information
is,
there.
a lot of good movies came out in
Boycott 'em.
1984, including The Terminator.
I'm boycotting
And,
it right now. There you go.
And what? And what?
Oh,
No, that's
The
just
Terminator and a bunch of other films.
and a bunch of
Supergirl.
other films.
That's right.
Yeah, Supergirl too. Yeah,
So it had,
Airwolf.
it had
So
to
it
be
all-
pretty good to
all
make a
kicks off.
splash.
kind of be,
Blood Theater.
the whole idea of the the super intelligence taking over, the machines killing us, really kind of. I was trying to think of this today. Were there any movies prior to the Terminator that really had that concept of the machines taking over the world?
probably was like a Twilight Zone episode.
Yeah, there's probably not in this like
Not on that
making it
scale.
a personal one-to-one sphere thing
Right.
where you're an individual being hunted
Right.
by that. I mean,
Like humans are like a virus to be exterminated.
yeah, you got things like Gemini Man and stuff like that kind of skirted near that concept, but I think it was really all about the whole like something that is indestructible. You know where the idea comes from, right?
No. Educate me, baby.
James Cameron. I almost said James Taylor. The very different movie.
Jim Crow? James Crow?
James
James
Cameron was in Rome, and they were on like a big pause for shooting some like piranha movie.
For Sci-Fi Channel.
I think Sci-Fi Channel existed. I don't know.
What?
But it was a like really low, like C-level tier horror film. And something was going on where
Night of the Living Piranhas.
they were on hiatus and they couldn't finish filming, and he was doing rewrites and he was stressing out, and he had like this fever dream in the middle of the night of like a chrome torso crawling, pulling itself across the floor to kill him. And he woke up and went, "Oh,
Huh.
how could that come about?
Interesting. Yeah,
How,
right.
he's
what would
Sarah
make
Connor.
that feasible?" And then he wrote the Terminator film.
Huh. I had not heard that story. Interesting. Very interesting.
Indeed. See, I rely on you for current stuff,
Yeah.
but I know old crappy stuff that doesn't matter. See, that's why I'm here.
Nice.
But
That's your
yeah,
function.
the whole thing about that first film is, and it's almost exclusive to the first film, is that it's not so much about the war, the coming war and the machines taking over.
Right.
That's just the premise to justify the killer robot trying to kill you.
Yes. Right.
The rest of the movies are all make a much bigger deal about the future and fate and all that stuff. But
Yeah.
Well, they had to fill like 10 minutes of movie where they were like fighting a giant mech on treads or something in the first movie.
oh man, yeah,
But
the
see,
opening
I'll
scenes
tell
are
you
always
what.
great. You always have something crushing a human skull on
Yeah.
a beach somewhere.
Yeah,
I love it. Never
But
gets
I'll
There's
tell you
old.
always a
what,
skull
though.
somewhere.
That's one of the reasons, and I think I told you guys this earlier. That's still probably my favorite film is the first one, and
Really?
and maybe it was because it was.
Remember, Mike's old.
I am,
true.
and it's nostalgic for me.
I
and
like
blah,
the
blah, blah,
Terminator
blah, blah.
film that featured Francis Humphrey. And
But I mean, it really is different. I mean, it's not as
Gone with the
it's not as
Terminator.
jokey and
oh
you know,
no, that movie
I mean,
that movie has very little gags in it. Only a couple.
very few. Yeah,
It
Very
is- it is
suspenseful.
very much, it's a horror suspense film.
yeah.
Or
Yeah,
what
very
they
well.
might call a thriller
Sure.
You know, but
Right.
it's more of a, I would say like a horror suspense, like the fear
and,
of being
in the
hunted.
truest sense. Yes, right. You know, and the futuristic scenes. I mean, I like the fact that they're abbreviated and they don't tell you a whole lot because I mean that adds to the mystique, right?
I like the fact that it's blue lasers versus red lasers. They use G.I. Joe rules so I
Yeah,
can
right.
understand what's going on.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
So, but to me, we even talk about that with the Star Wars movies, right? I mean, the original movies, especially A New Hope, you know, one of the great things about that was that he had the limitation of, you know, of what the technology could give him in terms of special effects. And so then you have to rely on, you know, camera angles and, you know, shooting in shadow and doing things like that.
The fact that they tried to pull off a future robot war scene, even briefly in that first film, and it's obviously it doesn't look real, but it looks cool.
Sure.
It's definitely blue or green screen.
Yeah. I think you're going above their actual technological prowess at the time when you say blue screen. I feel like it was just a wall of fog.
I just remember seeing it at the time. I mean, because
And
you know,
puppets.
prior to that, you know, I'm coming from the world of, you know, Star Wars, E.T., Indiana Jones, and then all of a sudden you see this movie where, I mean, there's this guy and he's a robot underneath.
Yeah,
and
he's
he
not
is
a
just,
psychotic killer. He's not the ghost of a psychotic killer, but he's a more efficient killer than any of them.
Right.
Because he's a robot from the future.
I mean, I just remember
Cybernetic organism.
He
specifically
doesn't
when he
show any
rents
remorse. He never gets tired.
when he rents the
that was-
room, right? And he goes upstairs and he pulls, you know, he was in that car wreck. You know, I'm talking about the Arnold Schwarzenegger character, the Terminator. And he goes upstairs and he takes the razor blade and cuts his eyeball out, you know, because it's all damaged and
Yeah,
crap.
totally real looking Arnold.
Totally not. But at the time, man, in the 80s, especially when you're a young kid, you're looking at it and you're like, whoa.
And you're seeing this kind of thing for the first time.
Yeah.
Whether it looks real or not.
Gross.
It's like the scene in Poltergeist where the guy rips his face off in the mirror.
right.
It looks fake in every way, but it's still freaking disturbing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, yes, and again, I think that's why, because it was so that first one, why it still holds a special place in my heart, because it was so shocking at the time. You know, I'd never seen anything like that before. You know, it was just super hardcore, and you know, and here's sci-fi, but it's different, you know, than what I'm used to.
So my mother would never take me to a rated R film or a violent film or anything like that. But someone that she worked with in like an ambulance dispatcher office told her, "Oh, it's fine for kids. I took my kids; they were fine." And her kids were like 3-4 years younger than I was, right?
wow.
So my
I only
mom's like,
say the
"Oh,"
F word like 40 times.
and I'm talking about T2.
Gotcha. Right.
And so she says, "I'll take you to see this." And so then I go to my dad. I'm like, "Wait, I got to play both sides of the coin while I can." I go to my dad. I'm like, "Dad, Mom said she's going to take me to see T2." And he's like, "Oh, really?" And I'm like, "Yeah." I'm like, "I've never seen the first one, Dad. I've never seen the first one." So we
How will I
went
know
and we
what's going
rented it,
on?
and he watched it with me. And like,
Right out of the gate, you're seeing Arnold Dong.
I freaking loved the movie. He was a little trepidatious, but he enjoyed it too.
Yeah.
Naked
And
butts.
then when I went and saw T2, I was like,
Two
well,
naked.
this is a whole different film
Yeah. Right.
because it's an action movie.
Yes.
Which
It was,
the first one is not an action movie.
no. Right.
There's action in it,
Right.
but there's not trucks jumping into aqueducts, you
Right.
know?
Mm-hmm.
And
Or
so
motorcycles.
I was
Very different.
really, really surprised because I was like, I was thinking my mom's going to be so mad.
Yeah.
She's going to be so mad
After
when she
seeing the first
sees
one,
what
yeah.
we see, what we're
Right.
going to see. And then when we saw it and we walked out, I'm like, "Did you like it?" She goes, "It was a little violent, but yeah, I think it was pretty good." And I was like, "Ooh, my freedom
Yeah.
notches just leveled up a little bit." So
Yeah. I remember that time because I mean, that was 91 or 2.
yeah, dude, I was like 11, 12 years old.
Well, I was like junior, senior in high school. So, I mean, that was my prime, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I remember that time very well. And that was a big deal. I mean, that was a huge movie at that time.
Yes.
And
Hey, Mike,
everybody saw that in the theater.
I think your prime is now.
I
Oh,
I
yeah,
know
Mike.
it's now, baby.
Oh,
I know it's now.
always been in your prime.
I'm still in my prime, baby.
Mm.
So, but yeah, I mean, that was a block. I mean, if there's a definition of a blockbuster, that was it, right? I mean, at the time.
yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, and yeah, you're right. Straight up action movie, very different than the original. You know, you have your, very action oriented, the big stunt scenes, you know, the big, the semi truck. Everybody always thinks about the semi truck going down into the sewer ditch and chasing the motorcycle. And,
yeah. And of course, the first movie, you have all this like kind of like puppetry and animation, stop motion animation that goes into making the robot happen. But then, the robot, the T-101 or whatever, the T-100, whatever he is, he's indestructible until the very end. Right. We find out, there are ways to actually kill these things,
Right. Mm-hmm.
So in T2, I think stepping the action up a bit, and then of course they had to come up with a different thing that maybe this is unkillable.
Right.
And at the time, James Cameron was really on a CG metal liquid high.
Okay, we hadn't had Jurassic Park at that time.
No,
right?
What we had,
that was still a couple years off.
Yeah, what we had. Well, Jurassic Park. Oh, that'd have been really close. Actually,
I think 94 was Jurassic Park, and then we're talking 91,
was it
92.
That late?
Yeah.
Okay, but what we had was The Abyss, which is another James Cameron movie.
True.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Where he first started showing his like raging hard on for underwater things.
Mm-hmm.
I love this movie. Actually, this is my mother's favorite movie, which also had the liquid metal thing.
Yes, right.
Well, it was water.
The watery thing.
Jurassic
Yeah.
Park is 93.
So the same kind of technology that they then came up with for the T-1000, who was our evil robot in T2, where the T-100 or T-101 or T-800, whatever the hell he is, where Arnold is the good guy.
T-800,
he was
right?
reprogrammed.
Abyss 89.
He was reprogrammed. Well, the reason why I'm confused is because the one that we see at the beginning of Dark Fate was a T-101. And that confused the heck out of me.
Okay.
Because I thought the T-100s were the tank-treaded dudes from Terminator 3.
Right.
But
like T1s.
we're
right?
going everywhere. Maybe they were just T1s.
Oh, man. Yeah.
But yeah, let me put it this way. I can be the biggest Terminator fan in the world. I can't remember like an alphanumeric code to save my life. I don't know my phone number, you guys.
The girl one was a TX because I remember they called her the Terminatrix.
Yeah.
It was that was funny.
I get it.
So that's when the dude from Fire in the Sky shows up and he's all liquidy. And you're like, how does he even work? Where's his CPU? My gosh. Because he's all liquid.
Yeah, I still don't
It's
completely
everywhere.
understand that. But.
Yeah. And I actually...
I look cool looking, though,
Yeah.
at the time. I mean, that was pretty cutting edge.
At the time, it was amazing. And now it's still totally watchable.
Yeah.
It's not like you look
It
at it and
is.
go, well, that looks fake. Because what would that even look like?
Sure. Right.
How
Yeah.
do you know what it looks like?
Exactly. So, but I mean, that's the one where you've got like helicopters blowing up and Arnold with a minigun in a window, like nothing like the first one.
Right. And I love the concept. I love the fact that, they, played with the fact that, the Terminator from the first movie, parts had been recovered and there's this scientist.
They thought, So you find out in T2, because T1, Terminator doesn't give a crap about the future, except for the fact that Sarah Connor, who gonna have a baby, he's gonna be the leader of the human resistance when the machines take over in 1996 or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. And so T2 then actually gives you the story of how it came about, and somehow we get a little wibbly wobbly timey wimey up in here.
It's like the past.
Yeah,
somehow
the future goes to the past and somehow projects the future.
Yeah, right.
Which is in this case
supposedly.
Yeah, go ahead.
They supposedly sent the Terminator that helped John Connor and the Terminator that was trying to kill Sarah Connor in the first one at the same time.
Right.
Yeah.
In the future. So it's like, how does that?
Well, if you go by the latest Terminator movies, they're spitting out Terminators every year for a while.
Right.
But so they sent a whole army.
So in T2, they've recovered the CPU and the arm
from the Terminator that was killed at the end of the first.
And they learned all kinds of, and so that's the mission at the end of T2, right? Is to go, Sarah Connor thinks, I'm going to assassinate this guy because we found out who the lead scientist was. We're going to kill him and it's going to prevent this future, right?
Yeah. But it doesn't because the parts still exist.
Right.
And so, they have to go get the parts and destroy them and also destroy the other Terminators that are now here.
Right.
Good and bad.
Yep. So at the end of the movie, Jason Patrick, that's who it is, right? Yeah. Jason Patrick, he melts himself in the lava.
We're saying the same words.
And then, of course, the famous scene with
Arnold going down and doing the thumbs up into the molten metal. Yeah, that's so...
It was the closest thing I had to a dad.
He's my pup.
He's my daddy.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's Pops.
Pops. No, he's not Pops. It's a different unit. That Pops got sent back to Sarah Connor when she was a child.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So that is supposed to have stopped Judgment Day.
Right.
But the
Or
thing
did
remains.
it?
But here's the question. The thing that remains, the obvious question is, well, wait a minute. If the arm and the chip hadn't been there to begin with, and
Right.
Judgment Day still managed to happen, how
Right.
does getting rid of them stop Judgment Day? And the answer is
it doesn't.
it doesn't. But Terminator 3, it says it delayed it.
Delayed it. Yes.
Yeah.
So
it's always been
it's-
fated to happen.
Yeah,
at some point.
it's
Right.
fated to
It was
happen.
gonna happen one
And
way or
actually,
another.
this is where I think Terminator 3 gets a lot of hate for just being a meh action movie. But I actually liked how Terminator 3 actually lays out everything that comes thereafter, which is it's going to happen one way or the other.
Right.
And that's what the themes have been since Terminator 3.
Yes.
You know, in Salvation, in
Yeah, that's pretty much
Genesis,
all of it, yeah.
and Dark Fate.
Dark Fate, especially. Yeah.
Dark Fate actually doesn't say this, but the whole reason why Dark Fate is happening is an example of this.
Right.
Which is
It's
in
like-
Dark Fate,
Doesn't matter if we don't
Skynet
have.
has nothing to do with anything.
Right. It doesn't matter if we don't have Skynet and we don't have John Connor.
Because
it's still
eventually
happening.
an AI goes rogue, takes over, messes things up, and designs the perfect human killing machine, which looks exactly like all the other Terminators.
Right.
You know, with different features. Sometimes they're matte black spray paint,
Right. Yeah.
which makes them look cooler. But
I remember I didn't rewatch it for our discussion tonight, but
Right.
I remember I saw T3 in the theaters and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I remember I just thought it was a good action movie.
I haven't seen a
And-
Terminator movie I didn't like. I've seen ones I've liked more than others.
Yeah,
but
sure, right.
I've not seen one I didn't like.
Right.
I like 3.
I like 3. I watched it again before we recorded like a few days ago. Yeah, it's still a pretty good movie.
Yeah.
Holds up.
Now in 3, we're still in sequel mode. Okay.
Yes, right. This is
So
a true
3
sequel
is
to
still
T2.
a true sequel to 2. We're
Right.
still theoretically in the same timeline, even though again, if we go back to the Terminator 2 logic of the chip being
Right.
that came back causing
Yes.
a future, you could surmise that maybe we've jumped timelines at one point in between 1 and 3. I don't know.
Yeah, possibly right.
But in 3, Sarah Connor's dead.
Right.
John is a young adult.
Yes.
Claire Danes is a good-looking veterinarian
Right.
who the Terminatrix is sent back, you think, to kill John, but no, it's to kill her because she's killing all of John's lieutenants. So if you think about it, like in these 3 movies and potentially Dark Fate, if you want to as well, they sent back a crap ton of Terminators.
Right.
Actually,
Oh, yeah.
no, Dark Fate can't be a direct sequel to 3 because Sarah Connor's dead. And John Connor got older.
Right.
So they have to be different.
Dark Fate is, and that's
And
set
by
up
the
by
way-
Genesis.
By
but
the way,
we'll get there.
I will not say any of these are reboots because Terminator Genesis made all of them possible.
Right. Right.
So I'm still going to weave it all together, but either way, establishes that whole
And T3, Sarah Connor's dead just simply from cancer, right?
Yeah, she
I mean,
died.
Yeah, it's
cancer.
like leukemia.
Yeah.
But so the Terminatrix was sent back to kill all of John's sublieutenants. Now, using the Dark Fate logic that Terminators were just sent back willy-nilly all over the place, theoretically, when they sent several Terminators back to kill John at the exact same time, they might have sent this one advanced model back to kill his 8 lieutenants or whatever.
Right.
So, or not. Or it could be a model that was just developed later and sent back in. I like the idea that they just went, send the crappy ones back to when she was just a chick who didn't know anything.
Right.
She'll be easy to kill. Send the good ones back after the cat's out of the bag.
Right.
But they did it all at once.
Yeah, sure.
Everybody
right.
line up. They're just dialing it, ahead in time.
Send them
Yeah.
out naked.
Yep. Zap them out there in a cold sphere. But yeah. And Terminator 3 eventually.
So T3 at the
Judgment
end,
Day happens.
Judgment Day happens. Skynet comes
drops
online.
all the bombs.
And the end of the movie is basically John and
Claire Danes
and
in a
Kate Connor, I think is her name.
yeah in a
Eventually.
bunker
Yeah. And
accepting the
accepting the fate. Right.
And this is where fate becomes a much bigger thing in Terminator 3. Terminator 3 really set up the mythos, even as we're treating it in Dark Fate.
Sure.
The mythos is really set up by T3, in my opinion. That this,
Yeah,
because
I
he
mean,
even says
right.
at the end, he's like, "There's nothing we could have ever done to stop
Right.
it.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
fated to happen."
Right.
Every movie thereafter has
You understand
you
why.
understand
Right.
why or how they're exploring.
There's the
it.
basic, right?
So salvation.
So salvation comes, right? And I mean, this propels us. I'm timeline. I get kind of confused because I think the original Judgment Day was supposed to be 97,
96, 97, yeah.
and I think that's how it ends up. No, it doesn't end up happening that way in T3. T3, it's delayed, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
T3, they're already in like 98 or something.
Yeah.
2000.
Okay. So then salvation, I believe, is mid 2000s,
I don't remember.
something like
I
that.
know they're still flying the Berts. The A-10 Warthogs,
Right.
baby, right there in that opening scene.
So
that
now-
movie won me over immediately.
So Salvation is one of them that I rewatched today.
Yep.
And
I need to rewatch.
I really enjoy. I mean, I watched that years ago, but
Yep.
watching it today, I really enjoyed that movie.
Yep.
I thought it was fun. I thought
This
it was
movie
pretty creative.
features Bat Connor.
Yeah, it has
Christian
Christian Bale
Bale
as
as
John
John.
Connor. Now this is John Connor he's not the leader of the resistance yet. That's an interesting point.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
he is, and actually the leaders of the resistance are kind of, I don't want to say jealous of him, but they're like,
They're the Sadducees to his not Indian engineer Jesus.
right. I mean, they're basically, they're like, oh, there's a prophecy that surrounds him and all this stuff. And
Yeah.
they basically try to put him in his place saying, we don't give a damn about your prophecy and who
This-
you think you are.
Let me put it this way. Blade Runner fans, the messianic parallels are strong with
Sure.
salvation.
Yes,
Including a resurrection.
Truth. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
So, and then you have I can never remember that Worthington, I think is his name.
I don't
was
remember.
The,
Marcus Wright.
Yeah.
yes, Marcus Wright, the character name. And he's
Sam
the,
Worthington.
he's the one that in the present, before we fast forward to John Connor, he's in the present day and he's on death row and they
Yeah.
kill him. And for some reason,
Bellatrix Lestrange turns him into a hybrid
she
thing.
apparently is dying of cancer or something, and she's working on some kind of experiment to, I don't know, figure out how to save her life in some
It's
way.
like taking a consciousness and putting it in a cybernetic body.
cybernetic organism.
Cybernetic organism.
So, which actually becomes important for future movies, right? Because
Yes.
the idea,
Each one of these movies has
They
themes
really-
that go into the next movie.
They
Even
build
people
on
like,
each
oh
other.
no, we're rebooting it. But no, you're not.
I know, yeah. I mean, yeah, a lot of people. I mean, because I'll read stuff on Dark Fate and it was, well, you just ignore this one and that. It's like, no, they really kind of build on each other. If you pay attention, they build on each other.
Really do.
So the whole idea of the Sam Worthington character basically is basically a heart and a mind that are embedded
and the rest
into
of his body is Terminator.
he's a Terminator.
Pre-Terminator Terminator.
And then, during that time, apparently we find out later in the movie that, once Skynet goes online, it basically takes over all that research and turns him into a Terminator, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, she did the work, but the Terminators turned him into one of them.
Yep.
And he didn't know. I mean, he basically thinks he's a human,
Yeah.
but
He doesn't know why it's going
Right.
on, why he's got these abilities.
So anyway, this is one of the things I found interesting about Salvation because I really feel like it was a different approach on this. I mean, because
I liked it because you're seeing the beginning of the war. There's not a bunch of laser beams and stuff flying around. It's people with guns and A-10 Warthogs burning up the ground and like they're using like guerrilla tactics.
look, and it's nobody going through time trying to save
Right,
the
there's no-
old versions, and I mean,
there's
'cause
time skip, but no time
almost
travel.
I think all the rest of them actually do that.
Yeah.
Salvation's the only one that just kind of takes place at
Salvation gave the impression that it was going to propel the franchise forward into the science fiction future,
Right.
if you will.
sure.
But
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't that well received by people other than, I don't know, maybe hardcore Terminator fans. And like,
Let's
I
be
did.
honest. I mean, none of them have been that.
Since
I think-
T2.
Yes, T2 is the last one that's been the huge moneymaker.
Right.
The rest of them have, I believe, made money, except maybe
Dark Fate, I'm not sure it did.
I think it sounded like Dark Fate might have lost money. They just put way too much money into that
did.
film.
They spent a lot
It's like
of
160 to 200
and
million.
here's the thing.
Unbelievable.
It doesn't show.
It really doesn't.
It's a good
From what I've
movie,
seen.
but it doesn't feel that expensive,
I
except
didn't-
for the whole like jumbo jet crap. That looked expensive.
yeah.
But yeah. So yeah, Salvation it kind of plays into that whole like John Connor mythos. Also, you learn that Claire Danes grew up
Becomes
to be
into Bryce Dallas
Howard. So that was weird because I'm
honestly,
pretty sure Bryce Dallas Howard is a lot younger than Claire Danes.
It's weird. It's weird that we've had so many different John Connors, but I got to say, I like Christian Bale. I thought he did a fine job.
I like going back to the
Some
original
people-
movie showing John Connor, and he's just like this like grubby schlubby dude.
Yeah, right.
But the funny thing
For
is, Genesis John Connor looked a little more like that guy.
Yeah, he sure did. Yeah, right.
But so yeah, after Salvation, you know, we have John Connor basically they borrow parts from Worthington's character
Right.
to fix John.
Yeah, John
and that's
is
the resurrection.
John is gonna die at the end of the movie, yes, and then they use his heart, and that's the big sacrifice at the end. And I really enjoyed Salvation. It was a good movie. And
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of that, it's just basically John Connor has now taken his place as the leader of the resistance.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the end of the movie.
Yep.
Then what? Genesis is next. And Genesis really takes us in a whole different direction.
Genesis opened it up, is what it did.
Yeah.
Because what we find, long story short, like Genesis goes back, and you go back to the whole thing with Kyle Reese going back to save Sarah Connor, which is what's in the first
So the
movie.
beginning of that, though, I mean, they've basically at the tipping point where they're going to win the war, right?
Yeah.
And they've literally got to the point where they found the time machine.
They lay this out, whereas they lay it out better than the other movies. It's like the humanity, the reason why the Terminator sent Terminators back in time, the reason why they figured out how to do that was because they were already losing.
On the
humans,
precipice,
yeah,
right?
the humans were about to win.
Yeah.
Which is not something that I think is ever established very well. It might have been mentioned.
I mean, they had literally lost the war when they had sent the original Arnold Terminator back to 1984.
Yeah.
Right. So that's where we pick up, and it's at the point where John Connor knows this, and he's at that point where he's going to send Kyle Reese back. He's going to put him in the time machine.
Yep.
And from that point forward, well, at least for a short time, I mean, we're propelled to basically the 1984 movie, right? They reshoot a lot of those scenes.
Yeah, a lot of the scenes on, you know, that whole scene at Coit Tower in San Francisco
Right.
and all that stuff.
Mhm.
Yeah, with no Bill Paxton.
No Bill Paxton. Yes,
No
the
Bill
punk,
Paxton.
the punk guy that gets his clothes taken. Yes, from Arnold. So,
But
surprisingly, that Terminator is killed almost immediately.
yeah,
By Sarah Connor.
yeah, the original Terminator is immediately murdered.
Kyle Reese is set
By-
back to protect her, and she's the one. You come to find out that
Can we stop and point out that we've had two different people from Game of Thrones play Sarah Connor?
we can. Let's
yeah.
do that.
Yeah. Yeah, because I already mentioned the
just
Sarah
did.
Connor Chronicles, which I'm sure
Just
we're
did
not
it.
actually going to go into any detail. But then, yeah, in this case, it's Khaleesi as Sarah Connor.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, but yeah, that suddenly the original story, which you think you're seeing the background of the original story, and then you move into the original story, and it all just takes a whole different direction.
At this point, this is where you learn that the machines are basically churning out Terminators and sending them back into time constantly.
Just desperate Hail
They're all
Marys.
over time now.
Yeah.
And at this point, apparently they've attempted to kill Sarah Connor
when she was a young girl.
when she was 9 years old.
Yep.
And I'm trying to remember.
I don't remember why Pops didn't kill her and how he became not a bad Terminator. I don't remember that. Unless Pops was one that was sent back to protect her.
I just watched that today, and I cannot remember why.
Yeah, well, it's right in the beginning of the
Why that
movie. You
turned.
get it, and it's gone.
Yeah, right.
Like,
It's
you
real
races.
fast,
That
right.
movie is a racer.
But yeah, you're right.
what that movie ends up doing is showing you that that the Doctor is Skynet. So
Yeah, Doctor Who is Skynet.
Matt
yeah.
Smith. It
he's just the
sucks
Doctor.
because I knew Matt Smith was going to be in the movie, and then at the beginning of the movie, I just see him standing
He's
in
just
the
a
background,
background
and I'm
guy.
like, "Well, I know the end of the film," because then the movie goes back in time. There's no more Matt Smith. I'm like, "We're definitely going to circle back around to that one."
Yeah.
And yeah, that he's basically Skynet
Basically,
incarnate, and he
right.
explains that he's not just sending Terminators back in time. He's sending Terminators into every possible timeline because of the different alternate timelines
Right.
and dimensions that are being
Yes.
created by what they're
Right.
doing. And he's trying every different kind of methodologies to
Right.
bring him about in different ways.
So, and again, it's an
Yeah.
expansion on the fact that, okay, the original movie, we're going to try to kill the mother of the leader of the resistance,
Yep.
right? But then, oh, now we're going to try to kill the lieutenants. Okay,
Yeah. No, it's Mother, and then the actual leader.
Yeah.
And then the lieutenants.
Yeah, now we're going to go back and kill the mother when she was 9 instead of trying to kill her in 1984.
Yeah.
We're going to kill her in 1973.
It's not that they didn't understand how time worked. It's that Skynet understood better how time worked than anybody else because he knew that all of this would skew.
It's a desperation move, right? I mean, because they're on the verge of losing. And the one thing that we didn't mention is right as they're sending Kyle Reese through the time machine.
Yeah.
And this is where things kind of go haywire.
Yeah.
That's where the Matt Smith character grabs John Connor. And right before he's propelled, he sees this. And as he's being propelled, suddenly his memories start like wafting and going crazy. And he's getting new memories injected into him.
Yeah, because John, it's basically killed by Skynet right there, and it kind of rewrites everything and confuses the heck out of him.
Right. Yeah. And it turns out that the big bad baddie is actually John Connor.
Yep.
Which is kind of weird. But
I didn't like that as much.
Yeah, I didn't either. I thought that was kind of strange because especially when you first introduce him and he comes in as the secret agent or whatever, the Homeland Security guy.
Yeah.
And they have that moment where everybody's realizing who each other are in relation to each other.
Yeah.
Those were actually kind of powerful moments in that film.
Yeah.
And then,
That's true.
No, screw that. Not really.
Yeah.
Sorry,
psych. Got an idyllic place and talk about tablets for a while.
And then they ruined that part, that spoiler, I guess, in the trailer, that he was not John Connor. He was actually like a Terminator type thing.
Yeah, that's right. I remember that. You're right.
And people are pissed.
It's like you gave that away like immediately.
Of all the things you could give away.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really.
Yeah.
It was Genesis. I would say was the most interesting, creative, maybe of all of them. It definitely tried to take things.
It tried to do something different,
but
I appreciated that.
The execution was rough, and I remember there being like delays and stuff with this film. Like they were having problems getting it into a finished state, and then what Skynet then ends up being is like some sort of like internet AI, not a defense system
At some
thing,
point,
but just like a
again,
ubiquitous.
this movie was made in 2009, so they go. I guess when they're in 1984, they have access to the time machine, and they want to propel to 97 when they think Judgment Day happens.
Yeah,
but the Kyle Reese character says, "No, I have this new memory. We need to go to 2017."
Yeah,
which is when Skynet comes online.
Yeah,
and she convinces them to go to 2017, and in 2017, that's where basically they set it up like Skynet is this. Everybody's got their tablets and everything. It's
Skynet
basically it's YouTube or Google or whatever.
it's really Google. That's right. It really
Google,
is.
right? And it's gonna once it becomes self-aware, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
So and Genesis is Skynet, and Skynet is Genesis, right?
Right.
So and essentially
and then they can travel through time at any time they want, I guess.
Yeah, pretty much. Now that they've set that up, so. I mean,
well,
we get to the end of the movie, right? I mean, they basically blow up Google, the Google headquarters before it's able to come online. But, I think you get to the end scene and they meet, old Kyle meets young Kyle and they have a conversation and everybody lives happily ever after. Except for the end credits scene.
He gives Falcon the shield.
Yeah. And then there's the end credits scene where, suddenly, it looks like, Matt Smith is still alive or whatever.
I don't even know if I've ever even seen the end credit scene. I saw a movie in theaters.
It's real brief. It just shows.
Who got the space pen?
It basically just shows the wreckage of the Google headquarters, and it shows Matt Smith still walking around or something.
Okay.
So, yeah.
All right. And that finally brings us to Dark Fate, the last entry in the film
the last
series.
and final that will ever be made.
Yeah, with it losing money, it's
interesting. But
This is interesting. Let's go. I want to go over the box office stuff real quick.
Yeah, do it.
This is made, with the exception of the first Terminator, has made the least amount of money. Worldwide, they're at 261 million.
Oh wow.
So the budget's around 185 million.
Wow.
62 million in the U.S. So majority worldwide.
They didn't go nuts on the
That's
marketing.
terrible.
They
did
didn't
not.
go nuts
No,
on the marketing.
I think they really banked on the fact that Cameron was producing, and that Linda Hamilton was back. I mean, I think they really thought that was going to be a draw.
This though,
well, it was for me. Not Cameron. I give a rat's butt about James Cameron. I think he's crazy.
I mean, most young audiences. I mean, come on.
I don't know. He made Avatar.
What's interesting here is Dark Fate has the third highest rating in Rotten Tomatoes of all the Terminators.
It's a good movie. I think it must have just come out and release hell. It just must have been a bad window.
Yeah, well, Rise of the Machines is the fourth.
It's too close to Genesis. Genesis wasn't that long ago.
Yeah, but you know what? I mean, I feel like it's just an IP that's just. It's like I feel like they can keep making Terminator movies. They just got to do it on a budget.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Definitely true.
I mean, this budget was just way too bloated. Way too bloated.
Let's see the budget. Yeah, the budget for Genesis 155. Salvation was 200. Rise of the Machines was around 180.
What was Dark Fate again?
185. It's right in there with all of them.
All of them, yeah. But
$6 million for the Terminator. Terminator.
Just this IP. Million. I mean, I would think that their research should have told them that there just wasn't an audience for it. I mean,
I don't want to believe that because I like them, but I know you want to talk about a series that has fatigue. I mean,
we're in 2020, man.
Each one has been received critically less well than the one before, at least at the time. I don't know if you
so I'll go through the Rotten Tomato scores. Terminator is 100%.
Yep. 100?
Yeah. T2 is at 93. T3 is at 69.
Yeah, it is.
Nice.
Yeah. Salvation's 33.
Oh.
Genesis is 27.
I'm still right.
Ouch.
Dark Fate is 70.
See?
Yeah.
So what the problem was is that it went downhill so long that even making in the critic eyes, that even making a good one, you've already shaken a lot of people off the line.
It's kind of interesting because you look at the worldwide box office numbers. Of course, Terminator 78 million, 520 for T2, and then it goes 433, 371, 440 for Genesis, so it bumped up. And then 261.
I mean, again, this all, in my opinion, this all has to do with shifting demographics.
When did Genesis actually come out?
Genesis was 2009, right?
No, 15.
Yeah, it wasn't that long ago.
The Salvation was 2009.
Okay, okay, right.
So
right.
I mean, they're coming out
over 4 years apart. I mean, that's
4 years apart exactly. Really, for
4.5 for
was it 4.5?
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like if you're just gonna give in and say, okay, we're gonna make Terminator films with different people,
but they had been doing 6 years apart.
Yeah.
Prior to that,
if you're gonna do that, that's fine. But if you're gonna try to claim that each new one's gonna fix the franchise, that's too close together. You got to give it breathing room.
Well, heck, between T2 and T3, there was over 10 years.
Yeah. Exactly.
I just have to wonder what the future is for these like IPs like this. I mean, is it going to be a box office release, or is it going to be?
They can make it a freaking TV show because I enjoyed the heck out of Sarah Connor.
In my opinion,
or
yes.
even a Netflix release, or whatever.
Releases would be perfect.
Yeah, Netflix movie or TV show. I mean, because the Sarah Connor Chronicles, I was pretty hurt that they wouldn't continue that.
And
I'm like,
that show
really
did
good.
some weird crap. Like, wasn't it the end of the first season they went forward in time like 14 years or something?
Yeah, something like that. It's been a long time since I've seen it.
Because they had the cute Terminator, and she helped them make a replicated time machine that could propel them into the future. And it was like, what was the real point of that? I don't even remember. Like, what was the advantage? And stuff. That show is so wonky, but yet it was still enjoyable. And the guy who played the Terminator hunting them, the least scary guy on the face of the planet. Everything he's done since then has been a comedy. You know what I mean?
Except for The Walking Dead.
Was he on the? That's right. I haven't watched
or
The Walking
Fear.
Dead yet.
Yeah, Fear.
I haven't watched.
I just have a feeling that I feel like given Dark Fate's box office numbers this time that it's just going to be put on cold ice for a while, and we're probably not going to see anything.
So they pitched
unless somebody gets the idea that they could do it on a different medium with a different budget.
They pitched Dark Fate as a sequel to Terminator 2, which it is. But again, because Genesis explain that
They can
all these
all
parallel timelines exist.
All exist.
It's
yeah.
not it's not a reboot like people were calling, or a soft reboot. It's not that in my mind, because it T3 definitely didn't happen in this timeline. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because Sarah Connor's alive and John's dead, unlike in T3, which is the opposite. And the opening scene is, Arnold walks up the beach, shoots little kid Eddie Furlong with a shotgun, and then walks back, presumably just into the water and across the ocean or something. I don't know. But
now I'm going to retire and sell drapes.
Exactly. I'm going to do
With
advise
balloons
people
and
on what
unicorns.
kind of drapes to put in the children's bedrooms. But yeah, like it just, and then Sarah is left just killing Terminators every year or two. Because she gets
See, and I
don't want to go into the great movie.
Because it's fairly new.
I don't want
right.
to spoiler it.
Right.
Spoil it. But yeah, like the whole premise in this one is, I'll say this. I'll spoil this much. Skynet isn't even Skynet.
Yes. Right.
In the future of this movie, which takes place present day. The
So I guess,
future
I guess spoilers if you don't want to hear.
Yeah.
I mean, we can go into that a little bit.
But the reason why I say that is because it plays into that whole fate thing setting up, where it doesn't even matter if it's Skynet.
Right.
It doesn't matter if it's called Skynet or
Right.
called Google or whatever the analog was in Genesis. It doesn't matter. There's another name for this one, and it's
Basically,
still Terminators.
all of this is inevitable. It doesn't matter that it's Skynet or John Connor.
Yep.
It can
there
be
will always be an AI robot uprising, and there will always be a
leader of
person
the
who leads
resistance.
the resistance
Right.
against.
Mhm.
And I'm fine with that.
Sure, I like that. Yeah.
Every few years, throw me another
Although,
iteration of that, but do it cheap.
I could really go for, and I think this would actually help the franchise out. Like a trilogy, where it was actually
Like a continual story. I don't know if this concept could hold people's attention.
Well,
through it,
Dark
really.
Fate was supposed to be the beginning of a trilogy.
Oh, it was?
Yes.
Yeah.
So was Genesis.
But it didn't
Genesis
make
was
any
supposed
money,
to be
so
a trilogy as
I
well.
doubt that'll happen.
Yeah,
Boy.
it's not going to
See,
happen.
Well,
their
unless-
ambitions are too high.
yeah, unless they look at the reviews and say, well,
Didn't make money. It did. People didn't see the first one.
Again, if they can figure out how to do this on a budget, then you can do those things all day.
Yeah.
well, that's the
it's
thing.
just
260 some million. If your budget is 100, 125, you're still making money.
Yeah.
I think
I mean,
you
they
can
still quote
I
unquote
think
made
you
money.
can do that too. I mean,
'Cause
I
they
really do.
Well, they didn't market this, so their marketing budget wasn't high.
Yeah. The marketing seemed real slim, real shoestring on this film.
So they
But-
probably broke even. But
I like it. I like all the concepts. I like what they do with Arnold Schwarzenegger in this film, and how they justify him again being older, like they did in the last one,
Yeah.
in Genesis.
Right. They all kind of
Well-
grow off each other. Right.
you get rid of the higher paid actors.
Yeah. But seriously, how did they CG Eddie Furlong that well? What the heck?
That's where all their money went right there.
What?
Well, I told you guys earlier, I
heck?
thought even the Linda Hamilton in that scene.
She
Yeah.
did.
I mean,
Yeah.
if that's
She
not
did.
B-roll
I'm literally-
footage, I'm
okay,
like,
so
oh
you
my
see her
gosh.
sitting there on the beach. It's the first scene, so we're not spoiling much at all. You see her sitting there on the beach, drinking her Mai Tai or whatever, and I'm like, oh, wow. Young
Yeah.
Linda Hamilton still doing it for me.
Right. I was
That's
like, that
amazing
has to
looking.
be
And then the
B-roll
camera
footage.
turns around, and there's kid
Eddie
Eddie
Furlong.
Furlong. And I'm
Yeah.
like, whoa.
Right.
Some of the best CG that I've ever seen in
Yeah.
a movie.
Yeah.
If it is CG,
Oh, yeah.
I don't know.
Right.
Right.
If they had some weird B-roll footage that they cropped it or whatever. I don't know. But
I don't
that
care.
Was,
I honestly don't care.
The Arnold looked fine, but the Eddie Furlong and Linda Hamilton blew
Right.
my mind.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, that was
Because it's
pretty
also it was
amazing.
in slow motion too, so you could see every bit of it.
Well, there's one scene where they're both on the ground, and you could see. I mean, it's slow motion.
Yeah. That was incredible.
Yeah, one part of the scene.
I could see. I would run out to see another Terminator movie in a heartbeat. I haven't seen one I don't like yet. With all their,
It's a good franchise, man. It's fun. They're good action movies. They all have a little bit different flavor to
but
them.
none of them's going to be a blockbuster until they stop for 10 years. Simple as
Yeah.
that.
Wow, it's a long time.
It's a long anymore. It's a long. That's
How
a long
many-
Arnold, he
time.
did.
Well, I mean, you were looking at how many between the first and the second. You're looking at like 7-8 years there.
I hope you're dead.
It was 84 to 92. Yeah, so
Yeah.
8 years.
8 years. So it's just like maybe if they take more time off, but I don't think the young generation now has any attachment to Terminator series.
No, they don't. That's I
because
guess that's
there's a
my
billion
point.
other things that do the same kind of stuff.
I mean,
look at
all this
Endgame.
stuff
Nowadays.
is, Gen Xers like us, man, that just
We're fond of what it was.
right. And I mean, at some point we're going to be, too old and they're going to move on. I don't know what the next
I
generation.
expect a young person to go, Terminator is all right, but he's no Thanos. And I would be like, yeah,
You're right.
you're right. Because they do all the wibbly wobbly timey wimey in there too. So anyhow,
Well, we need to get some things kind of ironed out here with the.
You're right. We did not talk about the most important part of the Terminator. I'm glad you brought this up.
Yes,
Howie.
I'm glad I did too.
The most important part of the Terminator franchise was clearly the fact that Budnick from Salute Your Shorts was his best friend with the red mullet in T2.
That's all I'm saying.
See?
That Salute Your Shorts
I mean,
was
thank
a fine,
God we didn't race
All
past
right,
that.
so we talked about Model 101, but he was referred to more as T800.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, T800
And
is
then
what
we
I
had
always
the
thought.
T1000 and the T3000,
I
the
thought-
TX.
But he called himself in Dark Fate. He said he was a T101. I thought maybe
he's Model 101, but he's a
Model
T800. There's a
Okay.
T800 prototype which had no skin.
Ah,
Okay.
See, I think the original Terminators were the ones you talked about that had the
T800.
treads, and they were just little
Yeah.
robots that shot.
Yeah, well, we saw those
that's
in
the T1.
T3.
The step up.
That's the
in-
T1.
Was the
step
drone.
up. Well, no, the step up was the rubber. They called them skin jobs, I think, or whatever, where they just put
Yeah, that's
rubber.
right, yeah.
It was basically the exoskeleton, but they just put rubber on.
Oh.
And then
Yeah,
the
they
T800, and they were easily spotted. That's why they sucked.
Yeah.
But then the T800 was the one that was like
Living
could
tissue.
was living
Yeah.
tissue on the
And they
exoskeleton.
had to have the dogs.
Yeah,
Yes,
flesh
and
And then
hair
they
and
had
have
the
the bread.
T850, which came back in T2.
What was that?
The T850
And that's Arnold in T2.
in T2, yes.
Okay, so
I
he
see
was
the
just
850.
a level model up from. Okay.
And
Yep.
he was sent by John Connor, right, in T2 to
Yeah.
protect
Yes.
his younger self.
himself.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the TX is
That's
the
Terminatrix.
Terminatrix.
She's the one who can self boob.
Rise of the Machines.
Mhm.
Terminator. Yep. We just need to get some clarity on that because I was about to jump across
Rise
this
of the
table.
Planet of the Terminators.
And of course, we have Pops and we have Carl,
Yep. Pop
Marcus
Carl.
Wright. We have the John Connor Terminator. Terminator.
What was the one in the new movie? The Rev 6 or something? Rev 8? Rev 9?
Yeah. Well, he's one of the revisions. I don't. Remember.
I actually really for all the revisions
I'm
of the
trying to look.
Terminators to make them scary at the time, the T1000 to up the scary, the T1000 being able to just go anywhere and through anything was a nice touch. I felt like the TX was kind of like stupid. And I'm like, well, let's go back to also having a skeleton inside of the liquid metal because that way she can turn her arm into a gun or something.
Yeah, laser, like a plasma cannon.
But revisiting that concept
And a
in Dark
flamethrower.
Fate, where you had the liquid metal around a lighter skeleton, like a lighter weight, it wasn't as strong as a T800.
like a carbon fiber.
Yeah, it was like a carbon fiber lightweight version, which is good because that way they don't weigh 800 pounds like a T800 does. Or whatever. But actually, the fact that the liquid metal and the skeleton could separate to attack
and
as
still-
two different units.
Right. That was a nice touch. Yeah.
It's almost sounds like easy or cliche, but I feel like they did it so well that the two of them had different strengths and weaknesses. That you had to fight them differently, and I
Right.
thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah. True.
So I don't.
Dark Fate was Rev 9.
Rev 9.
9.
T800 Rev 9.
Oh, that's an 800 Rev 9. Interesting.
Wow.
Oh,
Okay.
well, hold on.
Yeah. Because how would the T800 even exist? Also, you had the ones in the future that looked like 800s, but they had DOCKET arms.
Yeah. I mean, it
The
gets
T1 million.
Yeah.
crazy at some point, right? Well, at
Actually,
some point, like
they're
you
just-
mentioned, it's not even Skynet in
Yeah, well, it's-
certain timelines.
It's
So
not. So I'm like, but there's also the whole concept of would any AI design the perfect killing machine roughly
the same way. Yeah. Right.
That's what I call the Roddenberry method.
Sure.
Well, the
yeah.
TX was the Terminator. That's why she was cool. She terminated Terminator.
Yeah, she was the Terminator.
Terminator,
I did not know that.
Yeah, her job was to terminate Terminators.
Yeah, she could kill people. That was easy.
I'm sorry, he was just the Rev 9.
Yeah,
they had a Rev 8, 7. I don't know what those were from, though.
Maybe they used the Windows method and they just skipped straight to another number.
Was this a TME?
Yeah. Is it a TNT?
Dynamite.
Dynamite! Anyway, it's time to race away from this now that everybody knows the whole Budnick thing. We should probably just wrap it up.
I'm afraid nobody even knew that.
All right, what's your favorite?
When I saw it, I was like, Budnick.
Let's do a quick roundtable.
Corey, your favorite Terminator. Or Terminator moment.
Oh. Can't put me on the spot like that.
Terminator movie or moment or show.
I mean,
I know both of mine.
T2 is the best one. I love them all, but T2 is just so it's the one that has the best member berries in the Ghiblies for me. Also, the chase scene was pretty wicked. The motorcycle thing, the minigun shooting down everything and blowing up all the cars. You know, but I didn't kill anyone. You know, like I like it. Also, I really like Miles Dyson. I thought he was a cool character.
Yeah, he was cool.
Yeah.
Then he died.
Yeah, he did.
My favorite's the original, and my favorite scene in that is it sounds so stupid, but it's when the Terminator's chasing them in the car, and then he crashes into the concrete wall, and it just the violence through which the Terminator
missiles
smashes into the dashboard and all that stuff, and it just looks so crazy. And then he gets out and he's all freaked up, and then he cuts his eye out, and it's great. It is so messed up.
That's
man.
how Mike ends every movie review. And then he cuts his eye out, and it's great.
Good movie.
Good
Garrick?
stuff, baby.
Yeah, T2 is my favorite. The first one I saw, actually. I didn't see the first one until a lot later. My favorite moment, I think, is from, it might have been a deleted scene, but where he's trying to teach the Terminator how to smile. And,
Yeah.
was this a deleted scene?
No.
I can't remember because I have.
I think he's in there.
Okay, so he's like, "Hey, look at that guy over there. You gotta copy that so you can fit in. See how he's smiling." So the Terminator tries to smile, and it's like the most horrific thing I've ever seen.
I think that is a deleted
I laughed
scene.
my ass
actually.
off.
Is it?
Yeah, because like he does the whole thing with like teaching him how to say things and and stuff. But I don't think
they
the
left.
smile.
I can't remember because I get it confused because I've watched the extended version more than I have the original.
Oh, I've never seen that.
So they like do this. There's this whole scene, and I don't know if it was in the theatrical release where they turn him from read only to learning mode by like taking out his chip and inserting it back in or something.
Yeah, no, that is not in the movie.
No,
to my knowledge.
I don't remember that.
Okay,
yeah.
so
I'm sure Darth Joe Pesci will let us know if we were wrong.
I wish they'd let that in because there's some scenes later where he's like trying to teach him stuff, and he's like, "Okay, you got that?" And you're like, "Yes, I got it." And you understand before he was not learning anything because he was sent to kill and read only.
Oh, see, yeah, no, in the movie, I think it just down to the whole you got to do everything I say, right? Affirmative, and I think it's all based off that conversation.
Yeah, 'cause I thought that they should have left that scene in, I think, because it was really cool how they kind of explain when Terminators are sent out, they can learn, but Skynet only sends them out and read only, so they don't get attached or, stray from their mission. They're just singular purpose to go out and kill stuff.
Right. Interesting. That is an interesting concept.
Yeah.
But then that would have made Carl work a little differently.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I do like the story arc of Carl, which I won't spoil.
Which the first Terminator is my favorite, and the whole
because you like Linda Hamilton's mullet, don't you?
Oh yeah,
You get to see Linda Hamilton boobies in that one too.
A little bit.
And
I'm just saying.
the whole Carl concept is kind of my favorite.
The whole what?
The whole Carl concept.
Not from the first movie. He's
not
saying
from the first movie.
One of his favorite concepts.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Carl made me laugh at a spot where I was not expecting a gag, and it didn't make me roll my eyes. It just made me laugh.
Yeah.
Wanted to pick solid colors. I told him it'd be a mistake. Let's pick unicorns and rainbows.
Anyway, did we leave anybody out? We got everybody on the.
Got everybody.
All right.
So
hey, tell us what your favorite Terminator movie and or moment is or
will be.
Currently is, or things to come. By joining us on Discord, you can go to the website betterkind.com, find the link to our Discord, and join the ever-revolving conversations there on all manner of poppy culture-y garbage. And wherever you get the podcast, give us if you haven't subscribed. Tell a friend, tell your mother.
We need a 5-star review. Just saying. We need 5-star reviews.
Give us them top tier reviews.
Come on now.
We're not going to tell anybody that you lied. I mean, why would we? We only stand to benefit, We're running a review underground here, like Budnick.
That's right.
Your shorts.
Bring it.
Running the whole black market.
Your shorts is such a good show.
What's the best? Donkey Lips? What? Get out of here.
Ugg. You know why they called him Ugg?
Right?
Because his last name was Lee.
I hate it when people. What was that other Nickelodeon? That other Nickelodeon camp show.
Hey Dude.
Hey Dude. Everything. Oh, you remember Hey Dude? Hey Dude was awesome. Like Hey Dude can eat my sloop.
Hey Dude was okay, but Salute Your Shorts. Come on.
That was top notch entertainment, guys.
Oh, hell yeah.
Next week we're gonna do Salute Your Shorts.
Yeah.
In the meantime, I'm Corey. Over this Mike.
I'm a cybernetic organism here to entertain you in your ear.
Oh, there's Howie.
Have a great week.
Oh, there's Garrick. Get to the jelly. Howie, you need to stop recording so I can go and make my poops and peeps.